Good morning, everyone, and welcome to episode 34 of the Godzilla Wins Saturday Pick Show on this lovely Saturday morning, April 1st, 2023. I am your co-host, Jack Fredericks, editor of GodzillaWins.com, alongside my father, the Godzilla of Truth, John Fredericks. We are with our esteemed panel of perfect sports predictors. Our fight guy, Patrick Assalaone, America's Sheriff, David Clarke, should be joining us soon, and senior contributor to Godzilla Wins, the degenerate we all know and love, Nate Perry. Welcome, everyone, to the show. Y'all, we have an absolutely packed show for you today. For the first hour, we're talking baseball opening day. We'll talk about the new rules, the pitch clock, our picks for the 2023 season. We'll go through every single division, give you our picks and what we think of each team's chances. We might not get to all the teams, but we'll definitely get to all the divisions. Then at 9:30, we are talking the weirdest March Madness tournament ever with FAU, SDSU, San Diego State, UConn, and Miami all in the Final Four. Not a 1, 2, or 3 seed in sight. So welcome everybody to the show. Usually we start out with a rant from my father. I think he has one ready, but I'm going to start really quickly. I'm going to hijack the first 1 or 2 minutes of the show here because I've got something I just have to talk about. I got to get off my chest. It's been on my mind all week long, and you can go to GodzillaWins.com and find all of this coverage about what I'm about to talk about. Go to GodzillaWins.com for all your UFC coverage, all your basketball coverage, your baseball coverage. We've got a lot of writers up right now on the site working hard to get that analysis to you. But guys, I want to start with the most exciting basketball game I've seen all of March, which took place last night between the Iowa Hawkeyes and the South Carolina Gamecocks in the NCAA Women's Final Four. Now, I've written about Caitlin Clarke before. She's the magnanimous point guard for the Iowa Hawkeyes. She has taken the nation by storm here with her 40-point performances, both in the Elite Eight and now in the Final Four. She put up 41 points yesterday. She had 6 rebounds, 8 assists. Iowa beat South Carolina's undefeated powerhouse. They were 36-0 before the defeat last night, and they were on a 42-game winning streak. A lot of people scoff at those winning streaks in NCAA women's because of UConn's 111-game winning streak a long time ago. So it's kind of like, oh, well, the best team in the women's, there's not a lot of parity. But the way that Caitlin Clarke can take over a basketball game is just incredible. South Carolina should have won this game. They out-rebounded Iowa 25-5 on the offensive boards. They have 2 of their big 6'5" and 6'7". On Iowa, the tallest player is 6'3". But when you have, in every aspect of the game, South Carolina is the better team, and they played better. But when you have a player like Caitlin Clarke, who can hit shots from 5 feet behind the arc, who can drop 41, who can go to the cup, who can create space, and is an excellent passer, you have trouble stopping her. So I've been watching basketball my whole life. I watch all levels of basketball. I'm a teacher, so I've watched just this year middle school basketball. I've watched high school varsity basketball. I've watched Kenneth Lofton Jr. in the G League for the Memphis Grizzlies. I've watched Memphis. I've watched the NBA. I watch the NBA all the time. We talk about NCAA men's all the time. This is the most exciting basketball I've seen all year long in the Iowa Hawkeyes. The championship game's on Sunday night. It's taking the world by storm. Everybody's talking about Caitlin Clarke. So I encourage you, if you're not watching this stuff on Sunday night, tune in and have some fun. It's going to be a fun game between LSU and Angel Reese versus Caitlin Clarke and the Iowa Hawkeyes. Dad, I had to steal your thunder a little bit there because it's just, I'm so locked into this right now. I might be the only person on this show who stayed up until almost midnight watching the post-game coverage of the NCAA Women's Final Four. But I'm telling you what, I'm so locked into this, so I had to steal your thunder a little bit. Now, let's go, Dad, to your rant here, what we call Godzilla rants. What's on your mind?
Well, before we do that, I'm going to pick up on what you just said about women's basketball tournament. And I am so excited that LSU is in the final because I can't wait to tune it in before tip-off and see what dress Kim
Yes.
McCullough's, what's her, how do I say her name? I always
Kim Mulkey.
Get it screwed up. Mulkey. Kim Mulkey is going to wear, right? She always has some kind of a flamboyant thing on last night in the big game against Virginia Tech, she was decked out in this flowing pink dress, coaching a basketball game. She has, I don't know how much money her wardrobe is. She's got the best outfits known to man on the sidelines. You got to give a big shout out to Coach Kim, because she's the only women's basketball coach that has taken 2 teams into the Final Four. Obviously, she won with Baylor, and now she's taken this Louisiana State team to the finals. It's going to be a great game, but I just can't wait to see what she's wearing. That's to me, that's the exciting piece of it. So I can't wait to see that.
It's going to be an exciting game on Sunday. If you didn't watch the LSU Virginia Tech game, Virginia Tech was up big in that game. I took Virginia Tech in that game. I thought they'd win. They have a pretty incredible team there. LSU, though, comes back from they go on like a 19-3 run in the fourth quarter and just absolutely take over the game. All of a sudden, Virginia Tech can't buy a shot. They can't get it to their big. Liz Kitley, who's like 6'6", I think, and all of a sudden they can't score. And Virginia Tech had dominated most of that game other than the first quarter, but LSU really was able to take over that game at the end of the game. So it should be a lot of fun. I think that game is going to be incredible. LSU, Iowa, Sunday night. We'll see what happens. Obviously, most of the country pulling for Clarke and the Iowa Hawkeyes. However, LSU has a really good team. Angel Reese is just as good. She might not put up 40, but she can put up 30 pretty easily. So this should be a high scoring game. It should be a lot of fun.
All right. Can't wait to watch it. So look, before we get into baseball, guys, let me give an update on your brother, Joe. He closed the game yesterday in South Carolina, pitched 1 inning, no hits, no walks, no runs, 1 strikeout. But here's the deal. He threw 10 pitches in closing out the game in I guess it was the bottom of the 7th inning in South Georgia. 10 pitches, 3 of them were 90, 3 fastballs, 91, 3 fastballs, 90, 2, and then he threw two changeups and a fastball at 89. So he hit 91 3 times. So he's kind of broken that barrier now for everybody that's following him, and he's hoping to get up to 93 at the end of this spring. So he just hit 90 the other day, and now he's up to 91, and he had 3 pitches at 91. So he's having an excellent spring. So let me get that off. But hey, I'm so fired up that baseball started. I wait that's, I guess, the 6 months or whatever, November through March. I got to deal with that, 5 months. But now it started. But unlike football, where I'm a football fan, I will watch college football games. I will watch pro football games. And I am a football fan. Of course, I'm a Titans fan. That's what I'm focused on. But, I'll watch the Monday night game. I'll watch the Sunday night game. And I'm a football fan. I am not a baseball fan. This is what everybody's got to understand. I am not a baseball fan. I am a Houston Astro fan, period. It's the only games I watch. I don't care about any other team. In fact, I hate every other team. I hate the players on the other teams. I hate their logos. I hate their mascots. I hate their ballparks. I hate their beer. I hate the umpires that are there. I hate the owner, the general manager, the coaches. I'm a baseball hater. I hate every other team, everything about them. I won't go there. I'm done going to road games. I won't go ever again since the Atlanta debacle in the World Series. I'm done with that. But I hate all the teams, and their beer sucks, their hot dogs suck. I am an Astro fan. And if you get traded from my team, I immediately hate you, like Carlos Correa. There's only 2 exceptions in the history of Astros. Jimmy Wynn was my idol growing up. When he got traded to the Dodgers for Claude Osteen, who was a complete bust end of his career, I still was a Jimmy Wynn fan. So he got an exception. That was back in the 70s. That's okay. George Springer, I don't hate him because he stutters. So we have an affinity there. So you can't hate somebody else that got through life studying. And Marwin Gonzalez, although he's retired now, got traded to the Twins. Couldn't hate him because he hit probably the biggest home run in our history. Other than that, I hate everybody that gets traded. Last night, Graveman, we had him, couple seasons. He goes a free agent. He comes in, game on the line. Screw him. Yordan Alvarez, 2-out, 3-run double, wins the game. Go back to Chicago, Graveman, or wherever the hell you're from. I hate all these other teams. So I don't watch them. And in fact, when the Astros get eliminated, which has happened a couple times, obviously, I don't watch a playoff game or a World Series game. Not one. I refuse. And if Joe's got it on, I'll walk by it and shut my eyes because I hate every other team except my team. Last night, big win 6-3. By the way, even though I hate teams, I do follow them. So I'm going to give you my pick every day. I give you my baseball pick one a day. I didn't have one Thursday night, had one Friday night. That was the Astros minus 150. We're going to go 10 units a game. So right now I'm up $1.50, and we'll see what I have tonight when I look at the card. But I am the ultimate homer Astro fan. We're going to win the whole thing again. That's my rant for the day. I hate everybody else.
I hate every other person associated with any corporation that's not the corporation I cheer for. Very mature. Take their dad. You're missing a player who you still love, even though he was traded from the Astros. I'll tell that quick story right now. So you forgot Billy Wagner, who you.
Oh yeah, I forgot Billy Wagner. Yeah.
Now, when I was a child, Billy Wagner was on the Astros. And he was traded to the Phillies as the Astros were kind of starting a rebuild, and it hurt my father so much that he took me and my sister out to dinner that night. We're children. I might be 13 maybe. And he took us out and he's, we're at dinner. He's like, order whatever you want. This is a really important day for us. And then he sat us down and he was like, I have some horrible news. And we're thinking, oh my gosh, what happened? He's like, Billy Wagner got traded to the Phillies. And my sister's probably 8. I'm maybe 10, 11. And we're like, well, Dad, that doesn't seem like I didn't think that, I'm glad Grandpa's okay. But I'm sorry that your favorite player got traded to the Phillies. So yeah, he does take that stuff pretty hard. He can be pretty personal with his Astros fandom, and that's okay because we all have that in us. So that's why we want to talk a lot of baseball today. We got John Fredericks, Godzilla Truth, my father. We got Nate Perry here, Patrick Assalaone. We're going to start with the National League. We did this with the NFL back in August. I don't want to run through every team because we just don't really have the time. But I do just want to go through the divisions and get your thoughts on each division, each team's chances, who you like. And we're going to start here with Nate. We're going to start with the National League. So the National League, we're going to start with the National League East. And Nate, I want you to start out these conversations from a betting perspective. If there's any value in any of these teams from a futures. Now, the NL East had 3 teams in the playoffs last year: the Phillies, the Mets, and the Braves. This is a very tough division. And of course, the Phillies made that incredible run to the World Series and then were defeated by the Houston Astros in 6 games. So from a betting perspective, Nate, then we'll go around the horn here. What do you see in the National League East that you like?
From the National League East, I actually have a bet on the Braves to win the NL East. They're plus 100 right now on DraftKings. The Mets are plus 170. At the end of the day, I guess my sort of thinking was, often when I look at this sort of thing, I think like, what's the narrative? What are people betting? What is sort of like the market doing? And the Mets made all of those insane moves, right? Their payroll is like $1 bazillion now, and the Braves are still the favorite. And for me, it was just this bottom line was like, the Braves are still really good. And I think that everyone's just jumping on the Mets. Everyone's just thinking the Mets are a foregone conclusion. They're plus 170 right now, if you want to bet the Mets. But I just stuck to my guns and just still think the Braves are the class of the NL East. So I ended up taking the Braves here.
What were the odds?
They're plus 100 right now. They were like plus 140-ish when I bet them.
Yeah. Okay. So about 1.5 to 1 in the odds category for the Braves. Now, Dad, the Mets made you mad this offseason because they tried to sign Carlos Correa and then they didn't sign Carlos Correa. And because Carlos Correa doesn't play for the Astros, now you hate him. So tell us what you think about the NL East. Do you think the Mets have a chance? Edwin Diaz was injured during the World Baseball Classic. You're a Jersey guy. You like the Mets here?
Screw the Mets. Screw Steve Cohen, the hedge fund gangster bankster, spending all this money, destroying the game. Screw him too. Screw Correa. You know what? Edwin Diaz got hurt. I'm sorry about that. That's a tough blow for this team. But
It is.
but these are like the Yankees. Let's just go out and buy all the best players. Let's blow out the cap. There is no cap. Let's blow out the luxury tax. I made all this money. By the way, all these people that make this money, like Steve Cohen, he didn't manufacture anything. He didn't invent anything. He didn't build anything. He didn't grow anything. They just move around money and steal it from working people. So screw Steve Cohen and the Mets. I can't stand the team. Let me tell you something else, Nate. I love your play here on Atlanta, and I'll tell you why, right? I have a column that called Culture Matters, Clubhouse Matters, right? You bring in all these high-priced players. They don't give a rat's ass about their team or camaraderie or winning or anything else. They get in their pay. They get in their millions of dollars. That's why the Yankees can't win crap, right? Because they buy all their players. Clubhouse Matters. Look at the difference between what Atlanta did, right? They got all these young players. They signed them, some of them to pretty big long-term contracts, but they invested in their fan base. They invested in their town. They invested in their team. They got to keep these young players. They play together. They have a camaraderie. They're pretty tough. They got good pitching. So look, I love Atlanta's club. You play with, if you take the postseason and you take spring training, you're paying, some of these teams are playing 220 games together, Nate, 220 games, right? I mean, if you don't think that the atmosphere of the team and the clubhouse matters over that span of time, 7 months, 220 games, I don't think so. I don't like the Mets. I don't like them without Diaz. I don't like all the high-priced players. Now, here's a team to watch, okay? Obviously, Philadelphia's going to be tough again. All their pitching is suspect. That's their Achilles heel. Marlins, I tell you what, they're a good young team. They got a good chemistry together. I think they're going to be better than anybody thinks. I'm not saying they can challenge these teams, but I think the Marlins will get over 500 or over. The other thing that helped the Marlins now and helps all these teams is we now have the so-called balanced schedule, whatever the hell that means. So you don't play the teams in your conference or your division. So it's kind of like hockey now. So you play everybody evenly. So what was putting teams like Florida, Miami at a disadvantage is you had to play the Phillies 12 times, the Mets 12 times, the Braves 12. Now you don't have to do that, or I guess 15 times. Now you don't have to do that, right? Now you're spread around. Now you get to go and play Oakland, 9 times or something. So they have this balance schedule. I think that helps the Marlins. But if I were to make the play to win the division, I like Atlanta.
Now, Patrick, you're down there in South Florida. What's the temperature check on the Miami Marlins? Patrick, you might be muted.
I wasn't even aware that baseball season started until I got the email saying we were going to be talking about baseball.
There we go.
One thing I can tell you is this. I used to be on that side of the business, on the sports management side, dealing with players, dealing with the ins and outs of these things. And I can tell you something about when you put all those big price tag players on one team, you're sort of putting a bunch of locker room cancers in one room.
Bingo.
And the way I look at things is you don't treat cancer with more cancer. You just let it rot on the side. So I really don't expect too much from the Mets. I can see Steve Cohen just loving to tell everybody that, hey, I bought all these guys and they're on my team. And that's probably the extent of it. I'm a much bigger believer in continuity, like your dad was saying, where you just got a team playing together and they're looking to win. Also, about these big contracts, I very rarely, if ever, have seen players outperform in their new big, huge contracts than they did when they were in their contract before. I sort of see guys put things on cruise control, and everybody's going to say, well, these guys are out there to win. Of course they are, but the tens of millions of dollars are going to comfort the blow when they finish in last place, and they're really not going to.
Well, we'll see. We'll have to check in with Patrick throughout the season about the temperature check there for the Miami Marlins. And we're gonna his former life in sports management. We're gonna get to at the end of the show. A little story time from Patrick there. We'll talk a little bit about that. So that's the NL East there. Looks like Nate and Dad like the Braves. Everybody seems to be fading the Mets. I don't know, guys. I mean, the Mets are pretty good. They won the division last year.
We
but
didn't
I
even talk
understand-
about the Phillies.
Yeah, I know.
Well,
Let's talk
They're
about the
plus
Phillies.
425.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, they're again,
They had no pitching. I mean, they got the same issue they had in the World Series. I mean, it's tough. Not look. I know the bases are a little bit bigger, so you're going to get people are going to beat things out maybe 2% more. But you can't win in baseball. Scoring 8 runs a game. I mean, they don't have the depth of starting pitching. They don't have the bullpen either. I mean, even they have this closer by committee. I don't like that. I like a closer. So I just look, but they're tough. They're going to score a lot of runs again. They're an exciting team. Hey, I got to tell another Billy Wagner story though, because we got to the Phillies. So Jack was talking about Billy Wagner. The first game I took my son Jack to, I forget how old he was, maybe 6 or 7, maybe. And it was in Atlanta, and it was Atlanta and the Astros. And back then, whatever that time frame was, the Astros were not a very good team. Atlanta was winning World Series and all that. So I take him to the game, and it's in April, it's in May, it's cold. So we got blankets, we got good seats. Anyway, in the 5th inning, he falls asleep, sound asleep. I mean, snoring out at 7 years old, on my lap, on my arm, sound asleep. In the game goes to extra innings. In the 8th inning, in the 9th inning, they bring in Billy Wagner, his first appearance ever, just up for the minor leagues. He pitches 4 shutout innings into inning number 12, and then it was the bottom of the 12th inning. They took him out. So Jack never saw him. He wakes up and he thought it was still the 5th inning. But the first time that Billy Wagner pitched, Jack slept through it. So you had to tell that story.
Yeah, that had nothing to do with the Phillies, but thank you for illuminating us.
Well, he got traded to the Phillies. He got traded to the Phillies.
Yeah, he did. Thanks. So let's go to the NL West. I want to skip this Central for now because the West is just so much fun. The Dodgers and the Padres are going to be battling it out again. The Giants were in the mix for a little bit. Nate, let's talk from a betting perspective for a minute. Do you see any value in some of these teams from the West? The Padres have to be the favorite, right? Or is it the Dodgers?
No, the Dodgers are the favorite.
Wow.
So from a betting perspective, the Dodgers are pretty chalky. They're minus 120. Padres are second choice at plus 130. Then we get to the Giants at plus 950. And then it's everybody else at, basically like have fun odds with the Diamondbacks and the Rockies. So
golf odds.
Yeah. Like 45 to 1 on the Diamondbacks if you feel like they're really a real team. I think the Dodgers are a deserving favorite. I don't know if there's any value here right now at this particular moment in the season. But I mean, the Dodgers are just so dominant in the NL West. Like if you're just looking at teams that just crush every year, I mean, the Dodgers have won 9 out of the last 10 NL West titles. The only time they haven't in the last decade was a couple of years ago. The Giants sort of snuck up and stole one. That hasn't always translated into postseason success, but I mean, the Dodgers is a clear class of this, despite sort of San Diego's massive spending spree. All the West Coast people that I talk to about baseball are like united. Even like Dodger and Giants fans are like united right now in their hatred for the Padres. All I hear about when I go out somewhere and someone's talking about baseball, so they're just like, you know what? I'm a Dodgers fan, but I'm rooting for the Giants this year too, because the Padres just are making Dodger fans mad by stealing some of their spending thunder.
So Nate, you're a bartender out there on the West Coast. Yeah. Let's get into some fan culture here. As a bartender, who is a worse fan to serve? The Giants fan or the Dodgers fan, or is it the Padres fan now?
I don't even know if like Padres fans exist out here. Like I don't know if they exist in San Diego. I don't know where Padres fans live. I think they're new. I think they're like being born right now out of like 35-year-old men that are just tired of watching losers. They're probably about equally as insufferable. They both had enough success in recent years.
This is the Dodgers and the Giants.
Yeah. I think probably Dodgers fans are worse for me because if I'm wearing like my Astros hat or whatever, then it's like always a thing. So like for me personally, like Dodger fans are worse. I find San Francisco fans to be like moderately more insufferable just because like they're always just like, hey, can we put the game on? Can we put the game on? Can we put the game on? Can we put the game on when I'm working? And they're always like just mediocre. They're like fine to watch, but they're not like good. And then I'm like find the game every day. It's like watch them play someone terrible.
Yeah, when I bartended in Reno, the Giants were on that incredible run where they were winning all those World Series in the odd years. And they were a difficult fan base to please because it could be, I mean, Patrick, Dad, we're not joking. It could be the NBA Finals Game 7. It could be NHL hockey Stanley Cup Game 7 down to the wire. It could be the national championship basketball game. If a Giants fan walks into the bar and the Giants are not on the television, you are never going to hear the end of it. It's just constantly like, hey, how come do you have the Giants game on WESN? Hey, listen,
big game against the Phillies today. Yeah. It's like the fifth game of the season.
And then you'll change like the smallest TV in the corner. You're like, hey, man, the Giants game is over there. Just go sit over there. This is a bar. There's no assigned seating. And they're like, no, it has to be on the main television. So just change that one. This is where I am. All my Giants fans buddies are coming later, and we're going to watch them lose to the Brewers. So, I mean, it's just, it was so insufferable. And then I left before the Astros Dodgers feud when all the cheating stuff came out. So thank God that happened because I knew some Dodgers fans out there and they were a tough crowd too. So as far as worst customer base at a bar in the West Coast, the Giants used to take the cake, but I'm sure the Dodgers now are just as difficult. These guys think everything revolves around their team. Although I'm sure if my dad walked into our bar and the Astros weren't on TV, he'd be bothering us too. So I guess it's just kind of,
it's just baseball fans.
Yeah, it is really just baseball fans. They can't get over how their team's not on television at 7 p.m. on one of the busiest nights of the year, and it's like, hey, Friday night. Right? Hey, we're the Cardinals. Like, come on, man! Like the Cardinals, like the Cardinals Reds. Like, what are we talking about? We're in Reno. They'll do that. They will. So, Dad, very quickly, anything in the NL West that you like here?
Dodgers. Look, there's something wrong with the San Diego team. This is another team they keep, the Dodgers spend money too, but there's just something wrong with San Diego. There's something wrong with that chemistry. On paper, they should be one of the best teams in the major leagues. Again, they don't win. I mean, everybody likes Tatis. Everybody likes Machado. They got a decent pitching staff. On paper, they should, but they just don't win. It's just another team where, culture matters, clubhouse matters. I don't like the makeup of the chemistry of that team over the long haul. The Dodgers they're just tough. Now, there's a lot of Dodgers players I don't like that fighting Joe guy's, and he's a complete ass, whatever his name is. He's a jackass. So the Dodgers are kind of arrogant, but they're very good. They win at home. So, and I think the Giants are in kind of a semi rebuild. I don't see them, although Colorado started off the season, Nate, 2-0. So look, what is it? Gerald Clarke says April doesn't matter. Hey, Rockies 2-0, baby, in Denver. Who knows?
Yeah, April must not matter for Sheriff Clarke because he didn't even come to the show.
He didn't even show up.
He must have taken April off. Yeah.
Yeah, he must have seen the schedule and just been like, I'll come in at 9:30. I don't feel like.
Here's the thing, though. See, the Cubs won their first game. Normally, they get beat their first couple games. I get him on the radio, and he says, "Oh, the early games don't matter." I can't wait to get him on today. We ask him about the Cubs, and he's going to say, "Well, it's good that we got off to a good start, right?" He's going to change his tune because they actually won an opener for the first time in like 5 decades.
He's not the only one on this show that tends to change the narrative based on context, but we'll kind of move past that. So, Dad, before we get to the NL Central, which we have to get to because we got to talk about the Brewers, I guess. Why don't you tell us about DraftKings and the most famous promo code in all history of the world, Godzilla?
I tell you what, all you got to do is go to DraftKings right now, download their free sportsbook app. It's as easy as that. You just download their free sportsbook app. If you're a new player, you put in promo code Godzilla. We're going to give you winners today, right? You're going to get winners on the Final Four. You want to bet the game. It's going to be fun. All you got to do is put in $5. $5. You can't go to Starbucks and get a cup of coffee for $5 with the little whistle stick in it, or whatever they got with the cream on it or the cinnamon thing. You can't get a cup of coffee. It's $5. Put in $5. We're going to give you winners. You pick one team to win on the money line. You bet $5 on it. That's all you risk. If they win, bang, you get $150 in free bets in your account instantly. And then you'll have $155 to play with to bet anything you want. How do you beat that? Now, but you got to put in promo code Godzilla. That's how you get the free plays. Promo code Godzilla on a $5 bet. Boom, you're good to go. Look, obviously you got to be over 21. That's the law. And you have to be in a state where it's accepted, like Virginia, Pennsylvania, Ohio, Indiana, West Virginia, and many others. But that's all you have to do. And if you have any problem at all, call the Virginia Problem Gambling Helpline at 888-532-3500. Promo code Godzilla. Get the winner. Make your bet in the money line. Get the $150, $150 free cash in free bets. You're good to go.
Thank you, Dad. Absolutely. And we love DraftKings. So let's go quickly to the NL Central. Then we get to the American League, our favorite league here. So the NL Central, we got the Brewers, we got the Cubs, Sheriff Clarke's favorite team. He's not here to defend them. We've got the Reds, all sorts of interesting things going on. The Cardinals, who made the play-in game last year. Nate, from a betting perspective, any interest in the Cardinals there? Or are we going full Brewers?
I think from a betting perspective, it's okay. So we'll run down the odds first. So it's St. Louis Cardinals minus 125 to win the NL Central, Brewers plus 175. And then we have the sort of sneaky sleeper, which is the Chicago Cubs at plus 650. So from a betting perspective, I don't know if there's a ton of value. I think that if I had to choose, I'd probably take the Brewers. I mean, they were close to making the playoffs last year. It feels like it's probably going to be a pretty tight race between the Brewers and the Cardinals. I don't think the Cubs are quite there yet, because they're sort of still trying to kind of rebuild. But the Cardinals ultimately, I mean, I think there's value on the Brewers at plus 175 maybe, but the Cardinals still look like the class of the NL Central, just based on just they're so much better. I mean, they're just a good team. They're just top to bottom awesome. You know, obviously they haven't done much in the playoffs, but they have
Nate,
sort of
let me jump in here, Nate. Let's get to Milwaukee.
Okay.
I just got to ask you about one player. Yelich. We don't know what the hell happened to him last season. He was a dud. I mean, this guy he looked like for a couple seasons, right? One of the best hitters in the National League. And last season was a complete bust for him. No injuries. So sometimes these guys, I don't know what happens to them. Something happens. They get hurt or something. They can't come back. You know, he was hurt for a while. But I mean, how do you really talk about Milwaukee if you don't know what Yelich is going to show up this season, Nate?
I mean, yeah, well, and that's fair. I mean, like Yelich like hasn't shown. I mean, I don't know. I feel like baseball fans always think like, and this is, I think, true. Baseball fans are always like, oh, this guy used to be good. Yelich was good 5 years ago. It was 2018 when he won the NL MVP. So it's been a little while. So it's not like, I don't know if it's fair to say like, oh man, that guy just tanked last year. Like, I think he's slowly been declining. And now, you know, obviously five years removed from his MVP, like he's not the same player. So I don't know. I think that we watch baseball so often and the seasons are so long that we just think like that we have like no like sort of like time frame for like sort of like context or like, you know, this was a long time ago that they were actually good. So
how many years has he been in the league?
Probably
8 years.
Yeah.
Okay, so he's still too short of getting his pension. So that's not it. Because I've seen guys, and this personal experience, man, I just got to stick with a team for like 17 more games, and I got my pension. It's like, God bless him. I'm telling you, the money's got a factor to do with a lot of things. And if you become the MVP, you've reached the pinnacle of your career. A lot of guys just cash it in and ride off, you know, finish off their career until they get vested, and then they're done. And I don't blame them. Some people they don't have the passion for it like other people do.
I don't know. You know, Milwaukee, I mean, they traded away Josh Hader in the middle of a pennant race. I mean, this guy's one of the most dominant left-handed relievers ever. They just basically unload them, you know, when they're in first place. I never got that move. I don't really get the team. I don't get them. And I don't think Yelich is coming back. Sheriff Clarke just jumped in though, and probably because he heard us talking about the Cubs. But look, I like the Cardinals. I know it's minus 125. It's tough to be minus 125 and bet a team to win a division, because you got to wait, 162 games to get paid. And how much can you bet at minus 125? It's you're betting the Cubs at plus 650. You put a couple hundred on them. Okay, I can hang out for 162 games. So it's a tough bet. But if I had to pick that, the Cardinals just win. I mean, this is like another winning culture. They just win. I don't know how they win. Yeah, I saw them play in spring training twice, and when I was in Florida there, they got a solid team. Wainwright's 50 years old or something, but they just got a winning culture. And teams with winning cultures win. Teams that don't have winning cultures, guess what? Like the Yankees, they have spent all this money, right? They never get to the end of the rainbow.
Yeah, minus 125. You throw $100 on it, and then in October you win $75. So hooray. Sheriff Clarke, we're talking NL Central here. I was trying to keep that conversation alive until you joined us. Let's talk about the Cubs here. What are your hopes and dreams for the Chicago Cubs this season?
I'm a realist. I just want them to be competitive. They haven't been for the last couple of years, although they made some off-season acquisitions that I think will help tremendously toward being competitive. Their bullpen, they brought in some new prospects for their bullpen last year. They led the entire league in giving up saves in the late innings when they were ahead. They led the league. I don't think that's going to happen this year, so that'll add a few wins. The over-under total for them is 78.5, 78.5. I think they'll do much better than that. Young team. I like their manager, Davis. He's infused some enthusiasm into the club itself. It'll be fun to watch. I want to go back to something people were talking about, Yelich, Christian Yelich.
Mm-hmm.
Christian Yelich signed his last contract for $200 million guaranteed. I don't think he's worried about a pension, and he's not sticking around for that. He caught lightning.
When did he sign his last contract, though, Sheriff? That was a big factor in my decision making.
Yeah, about 5 years ago.
Yep.
Right, 4 or 5 years ago. Look, I think wasn't it the Marlins that gave Yelich away basically, and he wasn't doing anything down there. So he caught lightning in a bottle, had a couple of solid seasons, an MVP season, and those things don't last long. I mean, when you catch lightning in a bottle, it doesn't last long. And so he regressed back toward the mean, and that's what happened to him. Now, as for the Cardinals, you're right, John. Every year, it's St. Louis is sniffing around the division, sniffing around the playoffs. We'll see. We're only it's April 1st today. I was almost going to say we're only in March, but it's only April 1st. John, my position on April baseball. You can probably lose the division and an opportunity to make the playoffs in April, but you aren't going to win it. So you look at the Phillies last year, they were playing for crap, caught fire, came on, made it all the way to the World Series. So let's give it until, I say we can take our first look probably at Memorial Day. Things will start to shake out. Teams will start to take form. And we can look at after the All-Star break as well, and we'll know how this thing is settling out. But John, your comment about the Yankees, 26 world titles, and you say that they're never there.
Oh, that's you want to go back to 1927 or 1950, Whitey Ford and Mickey Mantle. I'm talking about the Yankees since they started outspending everybody and buying all these players and signing Garrett Cole for $1 bajillion and signing this one and that one. They just bring these free players up. They don't have anybody in the farm system that they develop. They're a non-developmental club. And so at the end of the day, you get all these high-priced players in there. They don't win. Astros swept them. They've knocked them out 4 times straight. So they just don't win the big games. And, winning cultures matter. Cardinals have it. Astros have it. Chicago had it for a while when they had that guy in there with the glasses, Madden or Maddox or whatever his name is, Joe Madden. You got to get a winning culture. I don't like the Yankees manager. I just don't like anything about the team. I mean, it's like San Diego. You look on a spreadsheet and you say, well, this is the best team. They should win. Here's the problem. Spreadsheets don't win games. Players do. Big players coming up with big plays in big time situations. That's what wins big games. Yankees haven't had that. San Diego hasn't had that. Other teams have had it. That's why I don't like the Yankees. When we get to the AL East, I love the Rays there, but go ahead. We can finish whatever we're.
Well,
But look, Cubs are 1-0.
April 1st. But just to kind of counter that a little bit, you say that's their model, John. You're right. They don't develop a farm system. They don't have anybody in the farm system. They trade their farm system talent away to get stars. It's New York, for heaven's sakes.
Yeah.
Those fans aren't going to come out to see, some guy who just got brought up and he's promising. They go after the Garrett Coles. They go after some of the high-priced free agents, but that's their model, and they don't do too bad with it. You're right. They haven't won a World Series in a while, but they didn't go 105 years like the Chicago Cubs, at least, before winning one. But that's the model they use, and I don't think they've been unsuccessful with it. Maybe in terms of World Series appearances, but they still contend. And really, if your team is contending, you really can't ask for too much more. You want more.
I agree with that.
You just don't want them in last place. You don't want to be the Baltimore Orioles, although they're playing better. You don't want to be the Pittsburgh Pirates. You don't want to be the Oakland A's, where you just know on April 1st you're out of it.
Right. Now, look, Jack and I were big, we followed the Astros forever. We would always say, he would say the same thing. I define a successful season. Is it the middle of September and do we have a shot, right? Are we in the playoff hunt? If we are, we've had a successful season. And, when we had those teams that lost 100 games a season for 3 years, and then, we had this huge drought between 05 and I think we got in 15. That was a decade. And then in the early 70s, when I followed them, they never made the playoffs ever. They never even were in the hunt. So, it gets old. But I think that's it. A success. If you're a baseball team, follow a team, and it's September 15th and you're 3 games out, you got a shot, you've had a successful season because the games matter. So I agree with that.
What would have been perfect is if I had a garbage can here, and as you're going on about the Astros, I start beating on the garbage can as you're talking.
That's a complete conspiracy lie. That was all done by the Yankees. They made it up. In fact, when the thing was done to the Yankees, the MLB redacted it all. Look, Boston did it, LA did it, Yankees did it. It's all been exposed. But look, they run the Major League Baseball, so they had to find a scapegoat. So nobody cares about the Astros. So they found us. We became the scapegoat. They did it worse. The whole thing is a New York Yankees conspiracy. We didn't cheat. They did.
Well, something, John, also, and did a little research here. The Yankees were the number 2 most revenue generating team. So they may have other, goals here besides just winning World Series.
I think Sheriff Clarke nailed it. I think Sheriff Clarke nailed it, right? To satisfy that fan base for all the money they make, they can't have guys coming up from the minor leagues, developing them for 6 months, hitting a buck 90. They want stars. They want star power. Say they go out and buy them. So look, that's their model. That's their financial model. I get that, but they're not going to win a World Series with that, because you got to make big plays and big pitches and big games, and they just haven't done that. So we'll see what happens. I don't know where Jack went. I think
Jack's gone. You're hosting now, John.
I'm Jack. God.
You're
I want to talk about Patrick. I would talk about Patrick Assalaone at TargetTrading.com. Patrick, talk about a winning culture, right? Tell us about the winning culture that you've been able to build at Target Trading, and the number of people, many of them my students, who have gone through your program who are now winning. Tell us about that, Patrick.
Well, last week we were 63 wins and 23 losses. Thursday killed us. We were 12-7 or something like that. So that's still much better than most people in this business. We have dozens of people, John, that started out as listeners to your show that came in, and anywhere between 5 to 7 months we're trading live. I've got at least anywhere from 8 to 10 live real money traders that came from your show in my room at any given time, which I think most people don't really understand, that you start something from zero, never done it before. There's nothing you can't take this in school. There's no degree for this. You've got to learn by losing and learning your lessons, staying disciplined, and sticking to the plan. And that's what I do. That's what we teach our students to do. And like I said, John, go to our website, targettrading.co, and you can see over 100 5-star reviews from Trustpilot. So you can't fake that.
You can't fake that, and you can't fake the number of our students that have joined the futures trading class that Patrick has. Ann was in it. She loved it. She vouches for it. She was very successful. Now she's had to take a hiatus. Obviously, we're buying these stations, so she's coming to Pittsburgh today. In fact, she's on an airplane now, getting up here as we do our due diligence. But go to targettrading.co, put in promo code Godzilla or mention John Fredericks. You're going to get 15% off your tuition. But winning is winning. I mean, Patrick has built a winning culture. It's unbelievably disciplined. And look, there's no guarantees in anything, but there is a record, right? As Bill Parcells says, you are what your record says you are. And Patrick has got a great record. And the thing I love about it, it's kind of like what we do on Godzilla Wins. He posts every week. He comes on and he tells us the wins for the week, the losses for the week. These are the trades they do, and cumulative through Q1. So it's like, when I do football, I'll tell you what my record is. When I do baseball, right now I'm up $150. I tell you exactly what it is on Godzilla Wins. Transparency here is the key. Go to targettrading.co, check Patrick out, go through the system, take a tour, talk to him, find out if this might be the right thing for you, especially now in a recession. Targettrading.co. Let me read a couple of getter chats here. Starman, who came to see Joe pitch in, I guess it was Ocoee, Florida. Starman says, good morning. Thank you for that. Mask Off says, John, remember WDAN when you buy your Dayton station. I do remember that. Mask Off. And then Rhino Buster says, Cincinnati Red season begins and ends on opening day. No more big red machine. So Rhino Buster, here's what the Reds do, guys. It's kind of neat, right? They have opening day. It's always open in Cincinnati. They got the first game, 12 o'clock. They close the schools. It's a free day. Schools get closed so everybody can see the Reds, and then they go out and get beat in their first game. But that's sad. But for you Cincinnati fans out there, closing school on the first day of the baseball season. See, I love that. I mean, that's what it's about, right? And opening day, and whether you're watching on TV or you can take your children to the game, you shut down school. It's a big day in Cincinnati, but Reds got beat. Okay, we got a lot to go over here. I'm not accustomed to hosting the show. Oh, Jack's back. Good. You bailed me out.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah, God. It took me a while to realize you didn't know I was here because you just were talking forever. So I'm back. So thanks. One thing about the Reds, I'm glad that they closed schools on opening day because there's no reason for them to close schools in October. So might as well get it in early. They're not going to be closing schools for the World Series. So might as well take a day off right before Easter until you get to May. So listen, we didn't get to the American League, but I think I want to save it for next week because we can't ignore the March Madness coverage here. That's been our bread and butter for the last couple weeks. We've been absolutely locked in, and we have what is quite possibly the absolutely weirdest Final Four in the books right here. No number 1 seed, no number 2 seed, no number 3 seed. So we've got two just incredibly just weird games here. Florida Atlantic down there in South Florida, where Patrick's living right now,
Boca
versus
Raton.
Boca Raton versus San Diego State University, a storied program, by the way, that just hasn't been able to break through. They're finally there. And then we have UConn, another storied program, blue blood, absolutely, versus the Miami Hurricanes, a 5 seed, Jim Larrañaga, incredible coach. I want to start, though, with Florida Atlantic and San Diego State. We're going to do a little preview here, talk about our picks. Nate, give us the odds from a betting perspective, and then we'll move on to this incredible game here between two teams that are very different in profile.
Yeah, so from a betting perspective, we have San Diego State's a 2.5-point favorite, minus 2.5. Over-under set at 131. So pretty low total. It opened at around 2. It opened at San Diego State minus 2, briefly jumped up to 3, and now it's kind of settled back down to where it's been for most of the week, which is minus 2.5.
Okay, so minus 2.5. What's the over-under?
131. So low total to kind of adjust for, San Diego State's held everyone at 57 or under. So it's pretty low total adjusted for San Diego State.
Okay. So Sheriff Clarke, I know this is the game you've been anticipating all year long. This is the game you've been discussing with us all week. So why don't you tell us your thoughts here on the Florida Atlantic Owls versus the San Diego State Aztecs?
Well, first of all, when you mentioned Final Four, I thought you were going to talk about the women's Final Four because that's more interesting than.
Yeah, we led with that with the show. I'm locked into that. So.
All right, I actually watched the game last night between LSU and Virginia Tech, not because I tuned in. I was out at a restaurant and they had it on the TV. No, but I watched the LSU Virginia Tech game, and the damn game was interesting. I said, wow, this is pretty good. LSU had to come from behind. I think at one point they were down by 13 in the first half. Anyway, on the men's side, I thought you were going to lead with that call that was made last week in the final second with the Creighton Blue Jays.
Yeah, let's talk about that.
A little controversy.
Yeah, it was
there.
a foul.
I don't know. I don't think there's a right answer on that. I heard all that was the big talk of the town Monday on all the sports talk radio shows were talking about the call. I don't know. You got half the country that says you swallow your whistle at that point. And you got the other half of the country that says, hey, a foul is a foul. So I don't think there's
It was a foul. It was the final shot of the game, and he gets pushed off balance, which made him miss the shot. If you don't call that, it's criminal behavior. I don't care what they called for the, look, you can whine and say, oh, they didn't call that in the first quarter. This is the final shot of the game. It's win or lose. The guy pushed him off balance. If you don't call that foul, you ought to get run out of town. You got to have the balls to do that. If you're going to be a referee at this level, you got to have the balls to make that call because it changed the game. He pushed him. That was a foul in anybody's book. If you go to referee school, 8th grade 101, they teach you that's a foul. He's not going to call it because, they didn't call that in the first quarter. Give me a break.
Well, okay. And John, you're not wrong. I said there's no right answer here. That's one position, and as a foul's a foul. Doesn't matter what part of the game it happens. But then the other half says, it's ticky-tack. In my opinion, just my opinion, it was a ticky-tack. I'm not saying it shouldn't have been called. It was a ticky-tack foul, and it was called. So I'm like, well, it was a foul, but it was kind of ticky-tack. I didn't look at it from the standpoint that you swallow your whistle. I don't believe that you do that. You swallow your whistle because if that's going to be the unwritten rule, then when I'm in that situation, I'm going to knock the guy on his ass and make sure he doesn't even get the shot off and just say, hey, you know what? It's the end of the game. Ticky-tack, swallow the whistle, and you can't do that. Anyway, that's just one part of this Final Four. Is how we got here with that game. But the storyline right now, it's not about these teams. It's that the ticket prices are dropping precipitously. They can't give these tickets away for the men's. When's the last time you ever heard where they couldn't? You could probably walk around the arena down there in Houston and probably find tickets to the game tonight on the ground where people couldn't sell them and they just threw them up in the air and said, "The hell with this." So I think that says a lot. I'm not letting you guys get away with this. And I don't mean that collectively. You're not all on that page, but the fact that there are no brand name blue bloods there is hurting this tournament. You look at the women's tournament, LSU, SEC. You had Virginia Tech, ACC. You have Iowa, Big Ten. And then you had South Carolina. So, and that's on the women, but those are brand schools, brand programs. All those teams other than Iowa, have kind of been here before. You got some, the Clarke kid from Iowa. And then you have the coach. You got some personalities there that might want to make you tune in. There's nothing about this NCAA men's tournament that really makes me want to tune in. I will probably watch because there's probably nothing else on tonight. But I'll tell you what, if I find a good movie, NCAA is going to be in trouble.
I don't agree with that at all.
Okay, so hold on.
I think this is the most great. I think this is the most fun tournament ever. I can't wait. Ann and I can't wait for these games tonight. I mean, you got underdogs winning, no number one seeds. You got San Diego State. You got this guy that plays this defense. Like I coach basketball. I never saw freaking defense like that. I didn't look. My thing on defense was, half the defense, double the offense. So I watched this guys play. I love that. This old guy that coaches Miami, 74 years old, dancing with his team in the locker room. I mean, they got all these shooters. They come from behind. This is an exciting tournament. I mean, you're sitting there telling me about, the blue bloods aren't here. The elite's not there. So what? It's fun. This has generated so much fun and excitement. I would say because they're not there. So
okay. So all right, hold on. Let's stop. There's 5 people on the show, so this is about the time when I have to remind everybody that we got a lot of people on the show. We got to
fight to get in here. You got to fight to get in this group.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I
fight to get in.
I control the Zoom, so I can just start kicking people out if we really want to. If we really want to start fighting, I'll just remove some people, and me and Nate will talk about. Nate, and Patrick will talk about FAU. So I want to go back to a couple things here, and then we'll move on. So number one, Dad telling Sheriff Clarke about criminal behavior is sort of an interesting take there. That was from a while ago. Also, from someone who's coached 8th grade basketball. There is no referee school in 8th grade basketball. They don't go to school. Listen, I had someone come up to me a while ago and say, do you want to be an umpire for, baseball? Like we're talking high school baseball. And I was like, well, what does it entail? Like, I got to go to class. And they're like, no, man, we give you the umpire hat and a rule book. And you just promise to read it before the first game. So, I mean, it's not exact. It's not so, I mean, maybe at that level, of course it is. But at this level, it's really not. Also, Dad keeps saying half the defense, double the offense. That wasn't his strategy. He got that from a cartoon on YouTube. So that was like from 3 years ago. He never was half the defense, double the offense. That's not a thing. So we want to move on to the next game soon, but we have to also get to Nate here because the foul there, the Creighton San Diego State foul, you had Creighton plus 6-1 to win the whole thing. Did you puke in a bucket?
50-1 to win the whole thing.
Oh, 50-1, right. Did you puke in a bucket after that game or what?
I mean, no, you're always ready for these as March Madness happens, right? You're always thinking like this could be when we go down. And so I don't know if I puked because it wasn't that big of a bet. It was to win a bunch, but it wasn't like a big layout on my end, which made it easier. And it was a foul. I mean, if we just are going to recap that, it was a foul. I mean, it was a stupid foul, but it was a foul. I mean, Nembhard funneled him towards the help. Help is right there to contest the shot, and Nembhard just grabs him. And that's what it was. It was a stupid foul, but it was a foul, and it probably should have been called. So from that perspective, I can live with it. But we're moving on to this game now, and I got thoughts on FAU. Myself, are we just going to preview the game for a second now that we've
go ahead.
Done a thorough post-mortem on the last game?
Yeah, go ahead and let's preview the game.
I mean, I think that FAU wins this game. I really do. I think that there's a real chance, and for as much as some of the people on this show have criticized sort of Florida Atlantic and they came from Conference USA, blah blah. We hate Conference USA. They won the CBI. They played an all-Conference USA NIT final, and now there's a Conference USA team in the Final Four. So maybe we need to just put some respect on Conference USA basketball because they are legitimately good. They're just a good basketball conference is what it looks like now. I mean, I think Florida Atlantic's a real team. I think that San Diego State's going to struggle. I think they're so good at game planning against teams that sort of have one or two go-to playmakers. I think that they might struggle to contain like the 9 deep that Florida Atlantic goes with all their shooters. I'm not sure if they can cover the whole floor. I think that the outside shooting is finally going to sort of regress because San Diego State has been so good at preventing teams from scoring from the 3-point line. They've allowed 17% shooting from behind the arc so far this season. I just don't know how that's sustainable, particularly against a really good shooting team like FAU.
Patrick, temperature check down there in Fort Lauderdale.
The big news at the Boca campus, and I've dug deep into my connections down in Boca Raton, is big news. They are very, very excited for the resurfacing of the community pool on campus in new shade lounge chairs. On top of that, I've got even more intel from the University of Miami. Buzzing about how after last week's Ultra Music Conference, 3/4 of the students didn't make it to class this entire week. That's the big story. Not a word about basketball.
South Florida correspondent.
Yeah. Our senior South Florida contributor, Patrick Assalaone, to give us the temperature check down there in South Florida. You know, next time we'll get him out on the golf course, one of those private clubs in Boca, and he can tell us how the sandwiches are.
I can do that for you.
Dad, any thoughts?
So
on
Nate,
the
who's your
FAU?
pick?
FAU. I think FAU
What's
wins
2.5?
Yeah.
All right.
Dad likes SDSU, I'm sure.
I love San Diego State minus 2.5 in this game. That defense is suffocating. They're bigger. They're stronger. They're going to clog the paint. FAU's got to score outside the perimeter. Here's
That's all
the
they
problem.
do.
That's what they do. But here's the problem, right? Good point. But here's the problem. You know what team allows the lowest percentage of threes this season in the entire NCAA season? San Diego State Aztecs, right? So they defend that three. The way they close out is phenomenal. That defense is switching. You can't get an open look. Look at what happened on look at what happened this past week when all those Creighton missed all those threes. What were they 3 for 30 or something? Florida Atlantic doesn't have the size. They've got to score from the outside. They're not going to score in the paint. The San Diego State defense is too tough, coupled with the fact they got a lot of depth here. Now, so does FAU also. They got a lot of depth. They got a lot of good players. I just think they're on a roll. I love that coach in there is going to stick to his game plan. And, you know, you look, the highest scoring team in the NCAA was Creighton. What they averaged 80, 89. They held them to 56 points. I mean, this defense is suffocating. We used to talk about, remember that zone defense that the Orange had? What was his name? Boehner or something? Bowman? What was it? What was his name?
Boeheim?
Jim Bowman? Huh?
Jimmy Boeheim?
Yeah, Jim Boeheim. Remember he had that 3-2 zone, right? And that was supposed to be the most suffocating defense. No way. First of all, I hate zone. It's for pansy asses. Play man to man. I love that man-to-man switching defense. I love San Diego State in this game minus the 2.5. But I am going to bet the money line because, you know, the problem with this 2.5 is, you know, somebody fouls at the end and, you know, or they hit a 3 with 2 seconds to go. You know, they're up by 5. Now you get beat by 2. I'm going to make 2 bets. I'm going to lay the 2.5 and then I'm going to bet the money line. But I love San Diego State in this game.
Interesting that you called zone defense for pansies and then you are too afraid to take the minus 2.5. You got to take the money line. It doesn't exactly align with your masculinity take there.
I never ran the zone. Look, you played for me a long time. We'd run zone once in a while when we had to. I don't like zone defense. I just don't like it. I play boxing once in a while. You know,
that's a zone.
There was just one good player, but I like man to man. I like the quickness. I like which it keeps people in the game. I just don't like the zone offense. It's zone defense. I can't stand it. So I'm like playing it, but hey, I love San Diego State.
Okay, so Dad, tell us about Ignite 45 real quick, and then we're going to get to the next game. Sheriff
I
Clarke's
tell
got
you
to
what,
go.
if you own a small business like we do, Godzilla Wins, you got to have a digital strategy, right? You got to have one. You got to have a website. Patrick knows this. Got to have a website. You got to have SEO. You got to have the Google search. You got to have social media. You got to have all that stuff. That's how it works today. And a lot of people own a small business. They don't really know what to do. It's too expensive. Go to ignite45.com. Ignite45.com. Iggy and his fiance, they were big digital people. They were in woke companies. They couldn't stand it. They quit, opened up their own small businesses. A great story. They've done a great job for us. Now, just go to ignite45.com. They'll do a review for free, give you a recommendation, and then you go from there. You either want it or you don't, no obligation. If you do go forward, you mentioned Godzilla, you're going to get $100 off your first order, but check it out. If nothing else in your business, go to ignite45.com, talk to Iggy, and get a review of your entire digital strategy website down. If nothing else, that's going to be worth the time you invested to go to their site, and there's no obligation. Ignite45.com, you're good to go.
Thank you, Dad. Now, Sheriff Clarke, I know you got to go in a couple minutes, so we want to get to you first when it comes to the Miami UConn preview here. Jim Larinaga is the only coach in the Final Four with any Final Four experience. Of course, UConn, even though you've said before that maybe they're not a blue blood, I kind of think that they are, but they're not from one of those big Power 5 conferences. So is there anything you like in this game? What are you looking forward to? You lean in Miami?
Let's talk about the women's tournament. Okay.
Look, we can talk about the women's tournament.
Well, no, I'm just kidding. What's the spread? I mean, what's UConn favored by? I know they're favored.
Go ahead, Nate. Tell us the odds.
The odds are UConn -5.5. It's pretty much stayed that way the whole since the odds opened. UConn -5.5. Over under is really high at 149. So high.
Yeah, I would jump all over UConn giving up those points. Look, UConn's on a roll, and this tournament is about momentum. Now, obviously, every team that's in it has won thus far, but you know, they've had the other three teams have had some games that were a little ugly, maybe one at the end. UConn is just they're making a joke of this entire field. So I think they're too big. I think they're too athletic. Miami's not that big of a team. And, you know, I mean, great guard play with Miami, no doubt about that. And guard play matters in college basketball. But I just don't see anybody stopping UConn.
Nate, you had UConn in your bracket, I believe. Now, my bracket was full of Miami. I picked them to win the whole thing. But you've been on UConn from the start. So is 5.5 too many?
I don't think so. I think that if it wasn't March Madness and we weren't, the thing about March Madness and the tournament in particular is that favorites sort of take on some value as during the tournament, because everyone loves to bet an underdog. Everyone loves to bet a Cinderella. I mean, that's, you know, not our narrative on the show necessarily, but like that's typically the sort of public angle is, I just want to, you know, watch chaos happen or whatever until the Final Four happens and nobody goes. So I think that probably UConn's a little bit undervalued just because UConn's been playing so good lately. The last 2 months, they've just been unbelievable. So I think if it were me, I think it'd probably be like 7 on like just sort of like any other day. So I think there's probably some value in -5.5 from that perspective. Obviously, I have UConn. I made 2 futures bets throughout the season. I bet on UConn about 6 weeks ago, and I bet Creighton like in like December. And UConn was 15-1. So obviously I'm a UConn homer right now. Anyways, but I think they're just a lot better team. I mean, Miami's fine, but the defense just isn't good. I mean, they've had to score basically upwards of 85 points to win these games. I think that's going to be a problem against UConn.
Dad, no love for Miami.
Listen, I love watching Miami. I love their old coach. I love seeing him dancing with his players. He hugs his players. He's kissing them on the head when they come off. I mean, the guy's something else, and he's just having fun. The whole Miami team is having fun, and there's really something to be said for that. However, you know, we also got to make predictions, And the problem with Miami is, they came back against, what was it, Gonzaga. They were down big. Then they came back against Texas. They were down big. They're going to get down big again today. Are they going to come back 3 times straight? Look, 5.5 is a lot, but UConn, bigger, stronger, more athletic inside. I mean, they're going to dominate the boards. They're going to get a ton of offensive rebounds or putbacks, just like Texas did at the beginning. And then Texas last week just had an epic choke, and Miami went on a roll just like they did against Gonzaga. Can you do magic 3 times in a row at this level? It's a tough bet. I'd like to bet them, but I can't. I just can't do it. I don't like the 5.5. Everything tells me this is one of those games where it's like, you look at it, you're like, okay, whatever team I bet here, I'm not going to win. It's ever get those games, Nate? You look at the line, you say, if I bet UConn, they're going to win by 5. If I bet Miami, they're going to get beat by 4. But I got to make a pick here. I'm with Clarke. They haven't even been challenged. I mean, they have rolled through this tournament unnoticed. Yeah, they're not an exciting team, right? They're just solid. They're big. They're strong. They're quick. They're very well coached. I got to lay the 5.5. I think they're the best team. I think we're going to get a Huskies Aztecs final game. That's my pick. UConn minus 5.5.
Yeah, I mean, just to speak to UConn's dominance just a little bit more. I mean, they've won by an average of 22.5 points a game in the tournament. They haven't won by less than 15 in anything so far this tournament. I mean, the dominance is just sort of like sneaky, and they've played good teams. I mean, UConn destroyed Gonzaga. They destroyed everyone they've played. I mean, it's just ridiculous. So, I mean, I know that Miami's played really well too, and the wins against Houston and Texas are, really nice wins. But I don't know if they're not the dominant team that UConn has been. Obviously, I worry that, if UConn gets into like sort of a fight, I don't know what they're going to look like because we haven't seen that happen yet. But my sense is that UConn probably just goes through and dominates.
The other reason why, I'm a little hesitant here is Miami gets to the line and they make their free throws. And when you're laying 5.5, you need the other team to miss some of these. They never do. They shot 88% free throws against Texas, 85% overall in the tournament. That's unheard of. So they sink their free throws. So that makes me a little concerned. But the Huskies haven't been challenged by anybody. So you don't really know, right? What happens if this game gets down to the final minute and it's a 3-point. I just think they're bigger and stronger. But it's tough.
You guys are really not respecting the Miami Hurricanes. I just want to run through the tournament because we've been talking about this for a while, and I've been on Miami since January. So the first round, everybody sat on here except for me and said they could get upset by Drake because they
should have gotten upset by Drake.
Well, they won, and they won by 8.
They were trailing most of the second half,
and then they came back and won. Like that's how the tournament works. So they won.
Put some respect on Miami.
Yeah, they beat Drake. Then Indiana comes around. Oh, well, I don't know. Indiana's pretty big. The Big Ten, you never know. They beat Indiana by 16. Then the number 1 team in the country, the team Dad bet to win it all, the team that everybody loved, the Houston Cougars, who blew out Auburn. They come in and they lose to Miami by 14. I mean, I understand UConn is also beating the bag out of teams, but it's not like Houston keeps slipping by with free throws and like a 3-pointer at the end of the game. They beat the number 1 team in the country, a number 1 seed. Everybody loved Houston, all that talent on the Houston team. They beat them by 16. Then they go to Texas, and we sit on this show and you guys say Texas is the hottest team in the country. Texas is beating everybody by 20 points. The Longhorn brand. And look, they play great basketball. They're energetic. They have a fan base that really cares about that program. Miami goes in there. They beat them by 7 points. So, and they've been an underdog. The only reason you guys love to make fun of the fact that I can't handicap a basketball game, even though I picked Miami to win it all, and I'm still sticking with that. The only reason I've been in the green the last couple of weeks is because Miami is an underdog in all these games and keeps winning. So I keep getting these points. I don't even need them. And I understand that UConn is one of the best teams in the country right now. I get that they blew out Gonzaga. I think Gonzaga in that game, it was not a typical Gonzaga game, but they stifled Drew Timme and they scored a ton of points. They're really good. But the idea that this line should be 7 and Miami should get blown out and UConn's just going to roll through until they run into FAU and, lose to the 9 seed here and Fort Lauderdale goes nuts.
Boca.
Yeah, that's right. Boca. Sorry. I keep saying Fort Lauderdale.
But look, I do agree with Nate though.
Palm Beach County.
I do agree with Nate on the spread. If this was a regular season game, right, Nate, this line will be 9.5 if this is a regular season game. So you're basically getting value here, and I think Nate nailed it. You're getting point value because there's Miami money. They've been winning. It's an underdog. Nobody likes laying big points in these games. So you're getting a value here. I agree with that. But look, Jack, I see what you're saying. I mean, if you're betting Miami, all they do is win games. Somehow they find a way. This old guy goes in the half. I don't know what the hell he does in there. Is his dancing or something? They do something. They come on the second half. They go on these. What did they go with? The 19-3 runs, 17-2 runs. The Cougars came back. They got within 1, and they went on a 16-0 run, and the game was over. So I mean, they're a dangerous team to lay 5.5 on. I will grant you that.
All right, let's talk a little bit about Jack's betting strategy here, which is pulling Miami out of the hat. It's worth noting that Miami isn't just a revelation in the tournament. If you just blindly bet Miami this season and nothing else, you would have gone 22-10 against the spread. If you just bet them when they were an underdog or a favorite of less than 6 points, so less than 2 possessions, they were 18-3 against the spread. They're 9-2 against the spread. It's just an underdog. So credit to Jack for identifying their greatness, but I don't know if it's identifying their greatness or just sort of blindly settling on a team that's just unreal against the spread all season long.
That's an attack on my character. I watch a lot of basketball. You guys are acting like I don't watch basketball. We just went through this. 8th grade up until Luka Doncic in the NBA. I watch the women's, I watch the men's, I watch basketball all the time. I love the sport. I understand it more than almost any other sport because I just love it.
Plus you played it and you were a coach in high school, so you get it.
Yeah, true. I was a coach in high school.
Plus you played for me, and so I taught you the game.
Yeah, that's right. That's right, Patrick. Everyone's jealous that I'm just on a roll and I'm crushing it in the brackets, and y'all are just mad because your teams exited in the second round. I've been on this forever. I've been telling you guys about Miami forever.
And let me tell you why I love what Jack is doing, because I have not bet against Miami, but I faded every other one of his picks, and I'm in the green.
See, that's right. Now we got a strategy.
Jack, Jack, you lost me at Rutgers, man.
Rutgers is good too. They made me a little bit of money as well. So look, I know Sheriff Clarke, you have to go a little early today, so we want to thank Sheriff Clarke for coming in to talk to us today about the Cubs and the tournament games, even though he's got no respect for any of these teams, but he's going to be watching the women's game tomorrow. Iowa LSU, huge game.
Electric matchup.
Yeah, electric.
Go Tigers.
And look,
Go Tigers.
And Angel Reese. I'm gonna write up something about Angel Reese, put it on GodzillaWins.com soon. Love Angel Reese, love Caitlin Clarke. I'm absolutely locked into the women's tournament, as a lot of people are. Hate to be on the bandwagon there, but I was a little early as well for that. Check the text from Nate about February 21st. I was talking about Caitlin Clarke. So a little early on that one as well. So we want to thank Sheriff Clarke for joining us today. We got about 10 minutes left. And here's what I want to do.
Ask Sheriff Clarke. Wait, Sheriff Clarke, who's your pick in the final women's basketball?
I said go Tigers.
Yeah, he's
LSU.
LSU.
And it's not a bad pick because they really are unstoppable. Angel Reese is
I love the coach. She's got to be like, what? Remember there was Pat from whatever team she was on.
Pat
what
Summit.
Was her name? Yeah, she was Tennessee.
Yeah.
But this Kim Mulkey, I don't know how she does it, but she's really good. Kim Mulkey, she's good.
I can't believe you have a radio show 5 days a week and you can't pronounce anyone's name. I don't know how you get on the radio and just start mispronouncing literally everyone's name that doesn't, that's not John Fredericks.
Kim
Kolke is the coach
Kolke.
for the LSU Tigers. She is incredible. But, Iowa, they can really stretch the floor there. They've got some 3-point shooters outside of Clarke, and that Clarke-Sanano duo on that pick and roll is just deadly. I know Sheriff Clark's going to be locked in, and we can talk about that next week because you'll be seeing those pick and roll. Sheriff Clarke happens all the time. Sanano, they switch a little bit. They get 2 people. You have to shade Clarke because everybody gets so nervous. Then she just drops a little dime to Sanano. Sanano has, by the way, taken 1 dribble all tournament. 1 dribble all tournament. That's how good Sanano is with her footwork. She doesn't dribble the basketball. She gets it in space. She turns, she puts it up. She scores 17 points a game. She's an absolute beast. And we'll see if she can defend Reese, who's also incredible. Going to be an absolutely electric game.
Who's your
Sunday.
pick?
Everybody's going to talk about.
Who's your pick?
I got to go with Iowa. I got to go with Iowa. And I almost bet Iowa on the money line last night in Tunica. But I got scared. I got cold feet because South Carolina is so good, but I got to go with Iowa. I can't get off the Caitlin Clarke bus now. I've been talking to her people. I'm trying to get her on the show here so that we can talk to her. If she wins the national championship, we'll never be able to talk to her. But we got to root for her anyway. She's just an incredible, and the whole team really, that is a complete team. And Lisa Bluter, one of the things we can talk about too in that game with the Iowa game is they started out in a triangle and won. I know you hate the zone there. They start out in a triangle and won. Clarke packs the paint. So she just waves off Raven Johnson, who shoots 21. She's a freshman. She shoots 21% from behind the arc. And she basically just says, go ahead and shoot it. Now, Raven Johnson hit 3 straight threes to get South Carolina back in the game late. But early on, just basically saying, go ahead and hit the 3. We have got to protect the paint because of Cardoso down there at 6'7", can basically just do whatever she wants if you don't have a big like Iowa doesn't have. So Lisa Bluter is a really, really good coach who is able to adjust on the fly. She's always got an interesting defensive game plan. And then the offense, the offense is around Clarke. So a lot of times what will end up happening is if they don't double Clarke, they shade her or they just bail out because they're so nervous she's going to hit a 3 from the logo or from half court. And then everybody's open everywhere. Not only that, she can blow past everyone, take it to the cup. It leaves Warnock and Gabby Marshall wide open. Marshall can hit down those 3s, although I think she sustained an injury last game. Warnock is also pretty.
What's the line on that game, Nate?
I don't know if Nate has it up.
Oh, I don't have it.
I don't even know.
Nate will bring that up in a minute here because I don't know either.
Iowa -3. A lot of love for Iowa.
Wow.
And they beat South Carolina. So honestly, the smart bet is to take LSU plus the points because they're probably a better team, but they have a lot of holes too. And if Reese goes cold, there's not a lot of people, not a lot of women on that team who can score.
Right.
But they are good. They got their bigger team, and Angel Reese is huge. So she can really move in the paint. That's going to be a problem for Sanano. And then if Sanano or Clarke get in foul trouble, that's another thing. The refs really respect Clarke so much. She probably should have had 3 fouls in that game. There's 1 foul that they called on someone else. And I get the sense that none of the referees, for fear of fan mayhem, are going to be calling fouls on Clarke. Aaliyah Boston, the star of the game for South Carolina, the best women's basketball player in the country, in the post-game press conference was complaining about the physicality and the missed call. She feels like she was getting hacked all day, but that's what happens when you got a smaller team. They have to push you around if they're going to win the game. So very excited for that. We could do 3 hours on Iowa LSU. I'm just absolutely locked in for that. But we want to spend the last couple of minutes with a little story time from Patrick, little segment we're calling Story Time with Patrick. Now, Patrick, your background is just so interesting. The fighting career, the stuff with the gambling, and then the sports management. So I'll just throw it to you. If you have a story, I know you talked about sports management early, but if you got a story for us, maybe about something with sports management, we'd love to hear it in the last 5 minutes.
We were talking about a story a couple of weeks ago when I believe when the whole Alabama basketball story came up about how certain people were probably felons, absolutely contributed to some very violent, suspicious activity. and how people just don't think about things sometimes. We were representing the company. We were representing a football player who had a gun in his waistband and shot himself. And
Oh, Plexico Burris. I remember that.
I didn't say that. I'm just saying a guy,
It's live radio, Nate.
and it was just, you just thinking to yourself that, well, the response was, geez, what is going to happen now? This guy's in New York with a gun. He's like, yeah, but I'm licensed to carry in Florida. That doesn't mean anything in New York. It's like, what are you doing carrying a gun, especially in a club? Does anybody think about these things? Apparently not. Nobody thinks about these things. And it just, and this is, sort of the kind of things we were talking about earlier today is, why do people do these things? They're not the same players they were before the big contracts. I'm telling you, when you got hungry guys trying to make a spot on a team, they're different. When the superstardom hits and all these knucklehead reporters start shoving mics in your face and nobody ever cared about what these guys thought about ever in their lives. Now people are asking them their opinion on world politics, on geopolitical freaking nightmares. People change. And I think they get into this position where they become something that they're really not. And they leave reality altogether. And they think because their superstardom is now going to protect them until it doesn't. It just, I find that very, very few people, athletes especially, really don't understand that their talent for a specific sport doesn't make them any better or any more important than anybody else. So they make mistakes just like everyone else. They do really dumb things like everyone else. They lose money like everybody else. A couple of times I said the story before about Western Union having to wire a pile of money to Las Vegas, Western Union, so a guy wouldn't. Who knows what they would have done to him?
Yeah. Yeah.
In the middle of the night, and these guys got problems just like everybody else, but they're not particularly special. They're not, they're no more special than you or me and anybody else. Is that they make mistakes, but again, I think your mind sort of changes when you get these huge contracts, and that's the point that I was trying to make with Sheriff Clarke when he had said that the baseball player had signed this gigantic $200 million contract. It's like, guess what? There went all the motivation. It's guaranteed. He's got to do nothing.
That's always been the case in baseball.
Yeah, especially the guaranteed stuff.
Do you find that more prevalent in baseball though? Because I have.
Yeah, because the money is so huge and
it's guaranteed, unlike the NFL.
Yeah, and there's the NBA contracts are weird too. So absolutely true. Look, we got about a minute left, Dad. And before you read us out, and I want you to take us to Bannon, will you just tell us a little bit about Rosie's Gaming Emporium, and then we'll end the show.
I tell you what, Rosie's Gaming Emporium in Virginia, they got 6 locations. They're giving out over $500 million in jackpots on their slot machines. We have such a good time there. Mama Bear loves to go. And but what's even more fun is they got a giveaway now. If you sign up right now, you're going to get between $25 and $1,000 in free play. Just go to rosiegaming.com. Rosie Gaming. I got the best giveaways for everybody. Go there. The food is great. The atmosphere, it's just a fun thing. They got Dumfries, Hampton. They got Vinton by Roanoke. They got a location in Richmond right by our studio. They've got Collinswood right by Danville. Emporia's open up. Dumfries in Northern Virginia. So they're all over the place. Go to rosiegaming.com. And the most fun thing is Colonial Downs in New Kent, which is part of Rosie's. They're opening up July 13th. We got 3 days of racing for 9 weeks. Now check this out. Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, they're back in the weekends. Post time, 1:30 p.m. This is in New Kent, just about 20 minutes east of Richmond. You want to check this out? Ann and I have our suite there. Nobody realizes this. We moved, Patrick, get this. We move our entire radio studio to my suite at Colonial Downs, July 13th. We stay there through September.
I
The
want to take
entire
Teresa up
radio
there.
operation is out of our suite. Like nobody does this in the world. And even though they're only there Thursday, Friday, Saturday, we're actually in there the entire week. We bring all the equipment in, the cameras, all the radio mics, everything is there set up in our suite. And that's where we hang out July to September. And Jack's coming up. We're going to bring in Nate. You've got to come. You got to bring
I'd
the
love to take
blonde up.
Teresa up
You
there.
got to get
She'd love
Sharon
it.
Clarke there. We have so much fun. And I tell you what, you think I'm good here in Godzilla Wins. I was in the horse business a long time. When I get hot sometimes, like I had a card in 22 where I won 9 straight. I had a card where I won 7 straight. I only bet to win. I don't bet exotic. I don't bet trifectas or anything. I just bet to win. And if I get hot, stay with me. But so much fun there. And our suite is right at the finish line. You're going to have so much fun. So come out and check us out. More information on that. You get your tickets now. Go to rosiesgaming.com, rosiegaming.com. Sign up now. Get $25 to $1,000 in free play. You're good to go. And I can't wait to see you guys on July 13th, opening weekend. Nate's going, Patrick's going, the blonde's going, Jack's going. We're all going.
That's
You know,
actually my birthday is the 12th, so we'll definitely go.
There we go.
Go to rosiesgaming.com.
I want to thank everybody for another fantastic show. Patrick Assalaone, our fight guy from targettrading.co, Nate Perry, our resident senior contributor, and my father, the Godzilla of Truth, John Fredericks, also Sheriff David Clarke. Up next, The War Room with Steve Bannon.